This is Lama Tantrapa. Welcome to the Secrets of Qigong Masters, the talk show brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Tai Chi and Qigong coaching. To find out about the programs offered by Academy of Qidao and how you too can become a certified Qigong or Tai Chi coach, please go to qigongcoaching.com. This show is also brought to you by Mastery Magazine, sponsoring the Summits of Qigong Masters, bringing to you some of the top experts in Qigong and Tai Chi in North America. Please go to qigongmasters.com to enjoy most recent interviews with them. Today, I'm delighted to introduce to you, or perhaps to reintroduce, Bill Douglas, the co-founder of the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, an ardent supporter of the energy arts in America. Welcome to our show, Bill. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you, Mama. Glad to be here.
We have been celebrating the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day for 20 years or so, have we not?
Yeah, this will be the 20th anniversary.
Oh, how exciting. So,
yeah,
right on the date. So this is basically a super celebration.
Yeah, that's why we did the World Tai Chi Day t-shirts in red this year, because it's the 20th anniversary.
Great. And what does the picture show?
Oh, this is it's Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man overlaid on the yin yang symbol. And it says World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, and then One World, One Breath. And then on the back, we have One World, One Breath in 34 languages.
Amazing. Is this the number of countries where Tai Chi and Qigong Day is being celebrated now?
Yes. All the translations were sent to us by World Tai Chi Day organizers in different countries. And then we had to go through the arguments between people in different countries about what was the proper translation. But we eventually got it all ironed out.
Probably there are different ways to say the same thing.
Some people are more poetic than other people are, so.
Well, yeah, and of course, the same language can be spoken in a variety of different places, like French Canadian versus French in France.
Yes.
Or Spanish in Latin America versus Spanish in Spain.
Oh yeah, and different Spanish within Latin America too. So yeah, it was more complicated than we realized when we came up with the idea.
Right. Not even to mention the Mandarin Chinese on the mainland and Mandarin Chinese in Taiwan.
Yeah. I think we just went with the traditional Chinese, so it'd be kind of universal. But we wanted our motto to capture, Qigong, means breathing exercise or life energy exercise. And so we wanted something that would capture the globality of the Tai Chi and Qigong family around the world. And so one world, one breath became the motto.
Well, and actually this is really fascinating because having been around the block a couple of times and having interviewed hundreds of Qigong and Tai Chi masters, I often get the impression from them that they believe their school or their style is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day is almost like the only day of the year when they can drop that pretense like our stuff is the best stuff and actually have some kind of camaraderie and maybe even celebrate together.
Yeah, and that's been our vision since the very get-go. And it was kind of like swimming through thick rubber at first, because it had been so ingrained, that our style's better than your style and all that kind of stuff. But after we'd been organizing for a few years, we got invited to present at the International Tai Chi Symposium. I think they held it at Vanderbilt University that year. And so they brought over, the 5 Grand Masters, like the grandfather of the Yang family and the Chen family and the Sun style and the Wu and then the Wu Hao. And so it was all 5 of the great Grand Masters. I'm sure a lot of your viewers have seen their photos, in different places. But anyway, they were all up on the stage, and the Chen master started talking about how reeling silk is not a proprietary domain of the Chen style. He said that Yang practitioners do silk reeling when they do wave hands like clouds and different things. And all the masters agreed that all the styles of Tai Chi offer the same benefits. And so that was like that was a big, kind of validation of what we had been trying to, kind of expand through the Tai Chi and Qigong world. But now, once you swim through the thick rubber, it gets a lot easier. And now it's just kind of an accepted idea within most of the Tai Chi and Qigong world that we're all brothers and sisters of the same family. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's really hard to not be brothers and sisters if you practice the arts that focus your attention on energy. Mm-hmm. And you realize, well, there are only so many people who even pay attention to the flow of qi. Mm-hmm. And how distinctly we feel compared to most of humankind. So yes. In a sense, it kind of creates an immediate sense of recognition of other people. Oh, you also practice the energy arts. Oh, that's fantastic. So there may be some pros and cons to different styles or different approaches, but the mere fact that we pay attention to the inner essence of things mm-hmm. already makes us much more connected than most people feel connected to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing that we noticed as as we organized the event, and then people started sending us photographs and videos of their events in different places around the world, and all over the world, all over Africa, all over Asia, Oceania, Europe, all over South America. And as we were looking, over the years, over these 20 years, through these photos and videos, to put them in our newsletter and on our website and to create video compilations and things like that, you start to see that same look on people's faces. And, it's like when you go into that state, I think part of it is you're going into that alpha state, that alpha brainwave meditative state, when you practice these techniques. And there's a certain look that people get on their face. Me and Angela were at Hong Kong Polytechnic University a few years ago, and we had a chance to meet with Professor William Tang, and he took us down to the Tai Chi Research Laboratory at Hong Kong Polytech. And when we met with him, I was showing him a short form that I had created for people with Parkinson's disease. And as I was going through the form, he was sitting next to Angela, and he pointed at me, and told Angela, he said, see that look on his face? He said, that's what all the masters' faces look like when they start doing their Tai Chi. It's like that common face that we get. Part of it is all the facial muscles relaxing, but I think that's just a reflection of going into the alpha state, And so as we started seeing this same face, on South Africans and Iranians and Israelis and Russians and Americans, for me and Angela, the whole concept of national borders went away. We don't see the world that way anymore. We see this brotherhood and sisterhood of the human family because we saw on this most visceral level how alike we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's been a real cathartic experience for us, especially me. I grew up in Western Kansas. I had very little exposure to the world beyond Kansas until I met Angela, who was from Hong Kong, but I met her at the university in Kansas. So it was, this has been a big thing, for the way that I perceive humanity and the world and everything.
Yeah. So what would you say creating World Tai Chi and Qigong Day do to you and to Angela?
There's so many levels of it. One thing is, we see all the feedback from people all around the world, who start practicing Tai Chi and Qigong and go through life changes, whether it be with physical health conditions or whether it be with emotional issues or, mental, issues and anxieties and so on and so forth. And so we see that coming in from people all over the world from all different styles. So it's like, we began to realize the style didn't matter. It was the internal arts, the practice of the internal arts. And so that melted away all those boundaries. And then at the same time, it was melting away all the national boundaries. because we would see Greek children and Iranian children and Brazilian children, and they all looked the same when they were doing their Tai Chi and Qigong, and sometimes they were doing the same styles, as one another. And so it was just like, the Taoist concept of everything being connected, everything being part of the same ocean of energy. It just came home to us in such a profoundly tangible way, over these years of organizing World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. And then the other thing that it showed us is that when people come together for a good purpose, that they're able to move mountains. And we were just going through, some of the media coverage. We were creating a montage of some of the media coverage that we've gotten over the year, the different groups around the world have gotten for the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day events. And then we started looking up the readership and the viewership of these different news networks, and we realized that over these 20 years, through helping kind of train Tai Chi and Qigong schools and teachers how to connect with the media to get the media to cover their events, and then the resulting media coverage that they've gotten. And then we also provide them with a medical research library so that they can look up medical research on, on what Tai Chi and Qigong can help with, which is most health issues, really. And then they have the research there, and then when they get the media microphone, they can share that through the media microphone with the public. And so we went through and we started looking at the readership and the viewership of these different news networks that had covered World Tai Chi and Qigong Day events. And we realized that we had reached over 1 billion potential readers and viewers with Tai Chi and Qigong information. And so, that really hit us in a big way. What happens when people come together? Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, together so much. And, it really kind of brought it home to us.
Wow. 1 billion is a lot of people. It's like 1/8 of a population of planet Earth.
I know. And if they all talk to 4 friends, then that means everybody in the world.
Right. So does this mean that we reached some kind of critical mass? Or has it be reached? We're still not there yet.
Yeah, that's a good question. I just saw an article a couple of weeks ago, and it said that in the last 15 years, the practice of Tai Chi and Qigong has tripled. So it's up 300% over the last 15 years. So, a lot of the people that are involved in World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, they think that World Tai Chi and Qigong Day and the media and everything that we do around it had a big impact on that 300% increase. So, but even a 300% increase, we've still got a long ways to go. And so, World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, one of the things that we have really pushed and focused on is to get mainstream medicine to look at Tai Chi and Qigong as an integral part of modern medicine, not just a complementary thing or an alternative thing, but as an integral part of traditional of standard medicine. And that report that showed that it had gone up 300% in usage also showed that I think less than 6% of those people that had come to Tai Chi and Qigong had been referred to it by their doctor. So that tells you we've got a long ways to go with the medical community.
Right.
But
who refers people to the Tai Chi and Qigong if not doctors?
Yeah, it's not doctors. It's happening out there.
So people are looking for, because they kind of recognize that they would be better off if they practice these arts, or maybe if they see friends doing it, and so they just get involved, but they're not referred by any professionals.
Yeah, well, I think I think a lot of people come to it for health issues, but maybe they read an article that it would help with their health issue, or maybe the MS Society, told them that Tai Chi is recommended, or the Parkinson's Society told them that it was recommended, but it wasn't their doctors. So the doctors, they're not doing their jobs. They need to be writing prescriptions for this stuff, and that's where we're headed. But we also want to another goal is to get not just Tai Chi and Qigong, but all the proven mind-body practices, meditation, yoga, everything that's proven to work. Make it an integral part of public education worldwide.
Absolutely.
When you look at the medical research on this stuff, the scientific research on what it does for consciousness, concentration, focus, attention deficit disorder, health, all these kind of things, it's literally insane that we have not already made mind-body practices an integral part of public education, where every kid in every school starts off their day with some kind of a mind-body practice, and then at some point during the day, spends an hour doing mind-body practices, like PE class or something like that.
Well, it's interesting. In early 90s, I was teaching this in public schools in Moscow, Russia.
Oh, okay.
I also went to college, and I paid my way through college by teaching Tai Chi and Qigong as the physical education in the college. I was actually hired as a PE instructor by the college, even though I was the student at the same time. And I was teaching because there was no other PE instructor, so I was the only one. There was the only type of physical education available at the college. Granted, that was the College of Oriental Studies and International Relations, so people who were kind of interested in what's going on worldwide, and okay, well, this is the internationally recognized practice, so people actually were doing that as part of their physical education. But it was in a different country. Here in America, obviously, we still have ways to go. I wonder what your estimation might be. How many people realistically practice Tai Chi, and how many people realistically practice Qigong in the United States?
I don't have a good number on that for you. If anybody out there has one, please email it to us, BillDouglas@worldtaichiday.org. I can't remember. I think I've read articles that there's a small percentage of the public that practices Tai Chi or yoga. It's way less than it should be.
Probably a lot more practice yoga than Tai Chi.
Yeah, yoga's gotten more media coverage, but even yoga, I don't think it's practiced nearly as much as it should be, because the medical research is just not really focused on, and there's a ton of it out there, and
also the type of yoga that you see often being taught is kind of really truncated, because nowadays it's like really easy to get a certificate as a yoga instructor. You just take a 2-week-long course or go on a 2-week-long retreat and get a certification.
Yeah, and then, and a lot of times, and this happens to Tai Chi and Qigong as well, where the mind-body aspect of it gets pulled out and it just becomes a body aspect, like aerobics. We were in Hong Kong, and I had an opportunity to go to dinner with a really celebrated master and champion in Hong Kong, and when we were at dinner, she was talking to me, and I think she just assumed that since we were American teachers that we probably didn't meditate. That meditation wasn't part of what we did. Okay. And so she was kind of wagging her finger at me, and she goes, "Bill," she goes, Tai Chi without the meditation, the mind. She goes, all it is, and she was trying to think of the word, and I said aerobics, and she goes, yes, that's all it is. It's just aerobics. and so that that mindfulness quality, it's like we don't want that to get sucked out, it doesn't mean that you have to meditate. It just means that you're moving Qigong and Tai Chi should be mindful, where you're really feeling the sensation, and being with the moment, as opposed to, just, kind of like calisthenics, where you're not really thinking about it. You're not really feeling anything. You're just, you're just doing it. And
activity.
Yeah. But one thing I wanted to mention too on the, on the number of people that are practicing these things is, over the years of organizing this, and because of the books that I've written, I've always been really interested in the scientific research of mind-body practices and the body and consciousness, because I've taught in hospitals for many years now. And so I was always, trying to keep up with a lot of things that were going on. And one of the things that I came across was and then at the same time we were organizing this worldwide event, that was engaging people all around the planet. And one of the interesting studies, research projects that I came across was the the Global Consciousness Project that came out of Princeton University. And what happened was, from what I understand, when they first started the research, they were curious about whether human consciousness would affect computers, because that the electronics are very sensitive, and human consciousness has an energetic component. And so they discovered through their research that in fact human consciousness did affect their computers. And I had suspected that because on days when I was like really fried in my brain, my computer seemed to be more glitchy. You know what I mean? And so I wasn't really surprised to see that. But what was fascinating was that then they took it a step further because they wanted to see, okay, how local is this, or is this something that's more or extra local? And so they placed these computers around the planet. They're called random event generators. And it's kind of the equivalent of an electronic flipping the coin thousands of times per minute. And, you have what they call a drunken meandering. But if you look at it over a period of time, it's 50-50. And, and that's just the reality of yeah, I mean, that's how casinos stay in business, right? It's, for them it's 60-40, but it's always 50-50 when you look at it over a period of time. But then what they discovered was, I think the first time they discovered it was after Princess Diana's death. Now, I loved Princess Diana. I thought she was a beautiful human being. That stuff that she was doing with, trying to end landmine usage around the world and stuff like that. I really loved her. But I didn't realize how much the whole world loved her. But apparently, after Princess Diana's death, all those random event generators in the Global Consciousness Project around the planet, they all started going way off track. So what they discovered was that when human consciousness is focused en masse, that it actually has a physical impact on the planet. And so that was very exciting. And then another study that I came across was the TM Foundation. They were doing a lot of research around what they called the Maharishi effect. And the biggest project that I think that they did was in Washington, D.C. And the smaller projects they'd done before, they found if they had a certain critical mass, you mentioned critical mass, right. If they had a critical mass of meditators in a institution or in a city, in a town or whatever, not only did the behavior improve for the meditators, but it improved for the whole institution. And so they wanted to do a big project, and so they were going to bring in advanced meditators from all over into Washington, D.C. And so they talked to the Washington, D.C. Police Department and told the police chief, we want to work with your crime statistics division because we're going to bring in a bunch of meditators. And we're going to bring your HRA, your homicide, rape, and assault rates down, I think they said 20%. And the police chief laughed it off. He told the media, he said, if we have a blizzard, because it's in August, that's when they were going to come in. He said, if we have a blizzard in August, he said, maybe they'll be able to bring it down. Other than that, I don't think they're going to be able to bring it down. So anyway, so they didn't bring all the meditators in all at once. They brought them in incrementally. So it was kind of, the number of meditators was increasing like this. Now, what was fascinating is that as the meditators were coming in, the HRA rates were going like that. So there was this correlation between the increase in meditators and the dropping, and they actually dropped their HRA rates 25%, I think. So they went several percent beyond what they said they were going to do. And that mirrored, I had taught Tai Chi and Qigong in Folsom Prison many years ago, and that mirrored something that I had learned there, because I didn't realize it at the time, but they had a Tai Chi and Qigong project, Tai Chi Cha project, going for a couple of years before I got there. And so one of the prisoners there, a guy named Jim, one of the inmates that was involved in it, he had been gathering the prison statistic during that 2 years, and found that not only did the behavior rates, they called them incident rates, not only did the incident rates drop significantly for the Tai Chi Cha group, but it dropped for the whole prison during that 2 years. So there was a rippling effect from the benefits that people got from it. So that makes us wonder, if year after year having, tens of thousands of people in over 80 countries go into that, that collective state, that alpha state that you go into, when you're flowing through your Qigong and flowing through your Tai Chi, How does that, how does that resonate through the planet? Not just on that day, but rippling out, over a period of time. And anyway, it's fun to ponder. It's fun to ponder. We haven't connected with the Global Consciousness Project yet to measure anything, but and it's possible that it might not be measurable, but I don't know. I just personally have a feeling that it's a really good thing to contribute to the planet.
For sure, absolutely. What would you say is that critical mass? In other words, what's the percentage of population that need to be involved in energy arts or meditation that would affect the whole population?
It's been a long time since I've looked at the TM research, but I think that for some reason I think it was just like 1 or 2%. I don't think it was a real high percentage, and so we could be. I don't know. One of the things that's happened with World Tai Chi and Qigong Day over the years is that groups have involved other mind-body practices. I think it was the Brazilians. They sent us photos, and they had massage therapists at their World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event, and so they were doing chair massages for everybody. And then the Egyptians and also the Australians. They had sent us video, and they had meditation teachers at their World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event, and then the Egyptians also had Sufi dancers. The kind of mystical Sufism. I call it Islamic Tai Chi. That's what I call it, because when they're doing that whirling dervish thing, I mean it's very Qigong-esque.
Well, if you think about the history of martial arts in China, it actually partially was developed as a result of influence of Bodhidharma and him teaching at the Shaolin Temple. But at about the same time, the Western China started getting the waves of the Islamic nomads coming from Central Asia. And there are still quite a few Islamic nationalities live in Western China, especially Uyghurs. So some of the martial arts actually come from their influence. For example, Shini, another form of internal martial arts, is very much a Muslim martial arts, which also has Muslim form of Qigong. And that's basically one of the interesting things about martial arts that people don't really know, that they don't all come from Taoist or Buddhist roots, even though the majority probably do. In Indonesia, for example, there is which is predominantly Muslim country. Same thing is happening. They have a Pancak Silat. Silat is influenced by Islamic practices, and Indonesian Islam is also very much influenced by Sufism. So basically, I would definitely concur that there is a connection between Sufism and some practices of martial arts and Qigong.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things at World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, for me and Angie personally, is, we've had a chance to meet people from all over the world, and the more you talk to people from around the world, the more you realize how closely entwined the world is. It's like when I was a kid, going to Sunday school and Bible school and everything. They always talked about the manger scene. You know what I mean? That everybody has at Christmas. You got the manger, with the baby Jesus in the straw, and then you have these three wise men.
I'm more familiar with Eastern traditions than Christianity.
Yeah, well, you'll see it everywhere at Christmas time. They'll have it outdoors. They'll have like Joseph and Mary, and then the baby and the animals, and then there's these three wise men. And so the three wise men show up, and they have gifts, frankincense and myrrh and all these kind of things. Well, I was reading a really interesting book the other day, and these things, like frankincense and myrrh and these things came from like India. So there was travel between
Middle East.
Yeah, between the Middle East and India. I mean, things weren't isolated. People were exchanging ideas. There were Buddhists in the Middle East. These things weren't separate.
Alexander the Great when he conquered a large portion of Middle East and Central Asia.
Mm-hmm.
When he died and his empire collapsed, a major part of the ancient Greek empire was in Central Asia. And so for hundreds of years, the Greek language was the official language of that land.
Oh, okay.
And the Greek philosophy was actually so influential that the whole tradition of Mahayana Buddhism developed under the influence of the Greek philosophers.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is very fascinating. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, the whole tradition of depicting Buddha in the form of statues
Uh-huh.
was also influenced by the Greek artists, because they were the ones who were experienced in creating statues.
Oh, fascinating.
So
Yeah.
even nowadays, the influence of a Greek art is quite noticeable in Buddhist statues throughout the Buddhist countries.
Yeah, yeah. As you're saying, I'm thinking of some of those images of Buddha that look very, had that kind of Greek ideal body, kind of thing,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, even way before Alexander the Great, people were migrating a lot. So much so that when did they populate the American continent?
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of years ago. It's like as soon as they figured out that there was a Bering Strait bridge and there was a way to get from Asia to North America safely, they traveled there on foot.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of miles, and then traveled all the way down south, all the way to South America, to Tierra del Fuego. So there's no stopping of human migration.
Yeah, yeah.
How did Australia get populated? Aborigines had lived there for 60,000 years before Australia was discovered by Cook and Tasman. What happened? Well, they got there somehow. They actually had to go across several straits in Indonesia to actually hit the Australian continent. So it's basically, there's always migration. There's always exchange of ideas and thoughts and beliefs. And that's why you can find so many similar ideas and beliefs in shamanic cultures, for example, in America, is North America, or South America, or Siberia, or Tibet. They're so closely related and intertwined, there's no way to tell them sometimes apart.
Yeah, yeah, and well, and there's two aspects to that. I mean, one is that, like we've been talking about, there is a cultural tapestry to the whole planet. It's not like anybody is really separate, because we have this common history, that kind of spread around the planet. But then the other thing, when you get into mind-body practices or shamanic practices or whatever, the other aspect of it is that we're all part of the same ocean of energy. And so because we're all immersed in this, this field of energy, whether you want to call it a quantum field or the Tao or, whatever you want to call it, naturally we would all come up with, similar perceptions, because we're all floating and swimming in the same, unfolding energetic nature of the universe. And so that's another aspect to it as well.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and how would you say being immersed in this energy ocean and become aware of the energetic nature of things has influenced your life personally?
The biggest thing is that as well, I think part of it is experiences that I had. I had experiences before I started practicing Tai Chi and Qigong. When I was a child, I used to walk. We lived in a small farming town in Kansas. And I used to walk out in the wheat fields with my dog in the summer. And when the wheat would get ripe, we'd be out there walking, just me and my dog. And that hot Kansas wind blowing through that ripe wheat would make this kind of droning sound. Almost like you were in a Gregorian cathedral or a Tibetan temple, with monks chanting, that kind of thing. And we'd be out there, and I would go into some state. And I had no context. I didn't know what was going on. I would just come back out of it and I go, wow, where did I go? Or what happened? I don't understand. It was kind of scary, actually.
We're not in Kansas, Toto.
Yeah, that's right. Although there was nothing to be scared about, but and then over the years, I realized that we really need, kids need, uh, they need instructors because my Sunday school teacher, it's like that's where I went for my answers because that's the only place I knew of to go for answers about things like this. And when I was at my high school graduation, the Sunday school teacher that I'd had as a kid, he came up to my parents, and I didn't recognize him. And it had been a lot of years since I'd seen him.
Mhm.
But he came up to my parents and he goes, Bill was the most difficult Sunday school student I had. And so my parents, they were looking really nervous, like I'd been doing something horrible in Sunday school class. And he said, "Oh no." He said he didn't misbehave or anything. He said he just kept asking me a lot of questions that I didn't have the answers to. And so I was, I was on this journey like we all are. And I was, I was having experiences and I was trying to understand them and comprehend them. And so I'd go to my Sunday school teacher and ask him. And now, if I would have been my Sunday school teacher, I would have had some answers for that little 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of Tai Chi and Qigong, it gave me context. Okay, okay, my brain waves are changing. Oh, okay, this is where I'm letting go of the particle that I am, and I'm becoming part of the field that everything is.
The wave.
Yeah, and that's why I feel more at home in the world because I'm experiencing being part of the whole thing. And so it's like children need guides, and they're not getting them. They're not getting them. They're just getting guides that are telling them, how to multiply things and how to stock shelves and how to become a consumer. but they're not having guides for the big questions. You know what I mean?
They would probably get guides if the guides were really cool. Like, for example, if the guides were like part of the video game.
Uh-huh.
Now, if somewhere in the video game there was some kind of a wise Sifu or guru who would dispense some wisdom, that would probably blow their minds. They would probably become really enlightened in a hurry. So.
that would be a fun video project, but you're gonna have to find somebody to sponsor it. I mean, those programmers aren't cheap.
Right. Well, but if you think about it, that's what really would change the consciousness of pretty much every kid. Because, first of all, they would realize they're not doing something wasteful, like it's wasting time playing the video games. They actually are learning something along the way. And what they're learning would also affect the quality of their lives. And that would basically be a seriously transformative experience.
Well, I think what you're talking about will happen sometime in the future. I mean, it just makes too much sense for it not to happen. It may not happen as fast as we think it should happen because it should happen like right now. There ought to be somebody working on that right now. Right. So that it can come out next year.
Well, in order to hire those expensive software engineers, we just simply need to make it so that the insurance companies would start paying for Tai Chi and Qigong. Because the insurance companies, not the doctors, are responsible for keeping people healthy. Doctors are not responsible for keeping people healthy because they would be out of business if everyone were healthy.
Yeah.
Insurance companies, on the other hand, are directly financially responsible and rewarded for people being healthy because they don't need to spend money paying those doctors and hospitals if people are healthy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think where we're headed, if you look at the national polls, we're headed for Medicare for all, which could be a step towards what you're talking about because a national insurance program like Medicare, it behooves them to bring down the cost of the program. And so that could be a stepping stone into a more naturopathic approach to healthcare.
Well,
but I mean, it's going to take people pushing for that. Nothing happens without people pushing for it.
Well, in some countries, for example, in England or in UK, there is a national health system, and I wonder if they have this type of preventative classes or preventative events organized that are covered by the insurance.
Yeah, well, I mean, the UK's been going through a lot of austerity issues over the past few years, and so they've cut a lot of NHS funding. But I do know that in Australia, there's a Tai Chi teacher there named Rod Ferguson, and he contacted us because he had used the medical research in our medical research library, and to create a proposal for the Queensland, I think it was the Queensland territory in Australia. And so they got funding to create a Tai Chi program that was free to all seniors in Queensland. So the Tai Chi teachers and the classes were paid for by the Queensland government. So that, things like that could be a model, for what we do.
But if you look where the money is, the government is not responsible for the health of the citizens. The government isn't being paid to keep them healthy. The insurance companies are responsible and get paid or financially rewarded if people are healthy. And so the insurance companies would actually be behooved to provide this kind of preventative services or health plans.
Well, I think I think some of that goes on, where people get, if they enroll in the gym or whatever, they get some kind of like credit on their insurance or something like that.
If they don't smoke, they get a credit.
Yeah. So some of that does go on, but I mean, it makes politicians look good if they can do, something with less money. Get some votes. So they're always going to tout stuff like that. If they did have a Medicare for All system and they were able to, institute programs that are proven, like mind-body practices that are proven to reduce health costs, literally by hundreds of billions of dollars if we got this stuff spread throughout the society, that would be a feather in the cap. Something that they could campaign on, when they run for the next election.
I wouldn't want politicians to be in charge of Tai Chi and Qigong programs. I wouldn't want them to get a feather in the cap for Tai Chi and Qigong, to actually stay as far away as possible from Tai Chi and Qigong programs and just not fuck everything up, because that's what politicians do.
Right. This would have to be a national discussion. It would be, how do we encourage people, through incentives to become more preventative in their health approaches? It's something that we'd have to figure out over time.
Well, that's easy. If people are responsible for their own health, then they will be highly incentivized to take care of their own health and do whatever preventative measures that can be taken in order to stay healthy. Health industry nowadays works on the basis of health insurance, so much so that it removes most of the responsibility from people's hands. So they don't feel responsible for their own health. So they're not taking any preventative measures because they're like, oh, if I get sick, I'll go to a doctor and the insurance will pay for it. If they paid everything out of their own pocket, that wouldn't be happening. They would be doing everything in their powers to stay healthy. Your website is a great source of that kind of information, isn't it?
Yes, the medical research, that's been one of the most highly used parts of the website. Yeah.
And would you remind us the website address?
Yeah, if you go to worldtaichiday.org and then you click on the Tai Chi and Qigong tab, and then under that you'll see medical research. And then when you select that, it'll take you to the page. And then if you scroll down, there's about 100 common health issues like heart disease or allergies or asthma or, whatever, anxiety, depression. And you can click on those health issues, and then it will show you all the links to all the medical research articles and medical research that we've collected over a period of 20 years. And it's been used. There's a Tai Chi teacher in England, and he regularly posts from our website onto the National Institutes of Health website. And then the Australians, we can see where the hits are coming from on the website. And so we see them from like the Australian National Health. I don't know if it's the NHS. I know that's what it is in England. But we see, we see that health institutions around the world go to this and use it. And that's what we wanted to create that so that it could disseminate that information and get it out there. Because I mean, that's really what propelled us to create World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, was because we started, this is like 20 years ago, we started seeing some of the medical research when we started teaching in hospitals, because doctors were showing it to us. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the media and we said, look, a lot of your readers and viewers that are dealing with these health issues, they should know about this medical research on Tai Chi. The media wasn't the least bit interested. They weren't the least bit interested. Right. And so that was kind of what propelled us to think, how can we get this information out there? And we got this idea of creating this massive Tai Chi exhibition that would be so visually spectacular that they couldn't resist pointing a camera at it. And then when we got the medium microphone, then that's when we started telling people about the medical research. And that was the model. And that's what we replicated all over the world by sharing how we did it with other teachers around the world. And then that's how we got this information out. But that's what drove us to it in the first place, was that the media was completely obtuse to the fact that the majority of their readers and viewers could profoundly benefit from information, and they weren't the least bit interested in giving them that information. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Basically, they were not really in the business of providing that kind of information that would be improving the quality of people's lives.
Yes.
And you found a brilliant solution to that. So that's definitely kudos to you guys. And
thank you.
And I just want to thank you for creating such an amazing event and for proliferating throughout the world, because obviously this is going to be a massive event. Just keep on growing, keep on expanding, keep on saturating the population with more and more of valuable information. And I would imagine that sooner or later we'll reach the tipping point, so to speak, or the critical mass of when even just 1% of the population will be practicing Tai Chi and Qigong, and that will actually contribute to the massive improvement of life in this country and worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's one of these kind of things. It's like you'll never really see. There'll never be any ticker tape parades for people that do the kind of stuff that we do. You know what I mean? It will never be recognized for what we put into these things, because it just becomes woven into the fabric of the society, and then at some point everybody just has adopted the information that we're trying to expand out there and share with everybody, but they don't know when it came to them. In fact, they feel like it was their idea, or their awareness. I think Lao Tzu talks about that. It's like he says that the biggest when you make the biggest changes, nobody knows that you made those changes. You know what I mean? They thought that they came up with that idea themselves. Yeah, plagiarism. I'm paraphrasing, but
plagiarism is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah, and so the society will, it's already in evolution. It's already changing. Things are already rippling out from the kind of work that we're both trying to do to get this information out there to help people lead more empowered lives. But there'll never be, a point where, it'll just happen everywhere. It's just permeating. It's like the water that formed the Grand Canyon, that was just flowing through the rocks. And
yeah, I wasn't planning on creating a Grand Canyon.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just trying to flow through those two rocks. That's all.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much once again for a wonderful interview and for doing this very important work. And remind our listeners and viewers that the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day is just around the corner this Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, Saturday, April 27th?
Yeah, April 27th, 10 a.m. worldwide. And so we have a directory at worldtaichiday.org where you can search for the events that listed in our directory. But keep in mind that I would say probably most of the events that are held around the world aren't listed in our directory. So what you want to do is you want to Google Tai Chi Qigong, your city, or surrounding cities or suburbs, and then just contact the Tai Chi and Qigong schools in your surrounding area and ask, just call a bunch of them, and hopefully you'll find one that's holding a World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event. There may be several events in your area. You never know. But use Google to search, and that'll give you a chance to, say hi and get to meet, all the local Tai Chi and Qigong teachers. And
where are you going to be on the Saturday?
Yeah, we're going to be in Kansas City at the Nelson Atkins Art Museum, and that's where it started 20 years ago. That's where we got that first group of 200 people together that got covered by CNN. And so we're going to be at the birthplace of it right here in Kansas City, and it's gorgeous. It's a world-class art museum, and it's pretty spectacular. We spread out on the lawn in front of it, and it's really beautiful. It's a cool place to do it. And then if people join our newsletter at worldtaichiday.org, in the days and weeks following the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event, we'll be sending out videos and photos from events all around the world, and some of them are really pretty spectacular. I mean, like thousands of people, all doing Tai Chi and Qigong together. It's really pretty extraordinary. Yeah.
Does any of it happen in China proper?
Well, Hong Kong, is sort of proper China now, and Hong Kong has a big event every year. Master Look coordinates that, and she does some really interesting work. She's a medical doctor, and she's in oncology, and so she has a big group of women that are dealing with breast cancer or have dealt with breast cancer, and they're a big part of their World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event, and that's pretty massive. And there have been events in China, but not at the scale of Hong Kong. And so, someday we would like to see it happen on a large scale in China, but it's hard because it's so bureaucratic. China's more bureaucratic. And where we've seen the biggest events have been, I'd say Brazil, Egypt, Iran, Indonesia. Yeah, Hong Kong's big event, and so New York City, Los Angeles, but it ebbs and flows. It's kind of like a quantum field. It's like a big event will pop up in one place, and then it may not be there the next year, and then another big event will pop up in some other part of the globe. So it's this kind of very organic kind of thing.
Very cool. Well, thank you once again, and I want to remind our viewers and listeners that you have just enjoyed another interview with Bill Douglas on the Secrets of Qigong Masters talk show that was brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Tai Chi and Qigong coaching. I invite you to go to qigongcoaching.com to find out about the programs at Academy of Qidao and to learn how you too can become a certified Tai Chi or Qigong coach. This show is also brought to you by Mastery Magazine, sponsoring summits of Qigong masters, bringing to you some of the top experts in Qigong and Tai Chi in North America. Please go to qigongmasters.com to enjoy interviews with them. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure.